Hello, this is Les Walkland, and welcome to our studio. Now, when a digital image gets returned to the world as an object in its own right, such as a pigment inkjet print, it can be judged whether it holds its own or could benefit from further refinement through simple object-oriented tests, such as our hand theory. That is, when a three-dimensional object, such as my living, breathing hand, is illuminated by the same directional lighting falling on a flat, still, silent, two-dimensional print. If my hand captures my attention as much as, if not more so than my print, then I always find the image will benefit from further consideration and clarification. But once the print becomes a more interesting and compelling presence than my hand, I know with confidence that it will proudly inhabit the world without needing me present explaining and justifying it. But when we are judging our image on a screen, and not in relation to how it will soft proof as an object, but just its screen presence, how do we, with equal conviction and confidence, make similar judgments about it? In an art gallery installation where the image is displayed on a calibrated screen under our control, its appearance relative to the surrounding gallery environment can be judged in a similar way to our hand theory. But when that condition is not known, or when we are only referring to its appearance on our workstation's monitor without any external referencing, let alone in a less than ideal working environment, what else can we do? Well, there are at least two tests that can help. One is our image's coherence relative to the application displaying it, and the other is a verification of how salient our judgments of its appearance actually are. For example, the phenomena of simultaneous contrast, where these five neutral patches are in fact identical, only the black and white surround being different, yet their appearance is anything but identical. The black surround creates the illusion the image is brighter with higher contrast, while the white surround makes the image appear darker with lower contrast. So what is the best solution, let alone what might be considered more rather than less objectively correct? Well, at least from my research, a neutral background somewhere between 72 and 78% grey seems to have the least effect on our image's appearance, at least when we are more or less fully adapted to the screen, which typically is when ambient D50 illumination is around 32 lux, and therefore commensurate with ISO's 3664's graphic technology and photography viewing conditions. Here in Photoshop, we can easily set the image's background color and its interface to a default light gray, that in practice produces less unwanted surprises when our image is subsequently viewed in different contexts, or less than ideal conditions. And this is why we always rely on an application like Adobe Photoshop or Affinity Photo to make this final judgment about our image's tonal and color compositions, rather than Lightroom or Capture One and so on, where interface customization is less facilitated, or not possible at all. Also, at the end of our image's workflow, where aesthetic judgments rather than any pretense of objectivity is desperately needed, we merge all visible layers and apply an average filter, and then blend on color and luminosity to separate the image into its modified tonal and color compositions, to thereby determine how well they align with the meaning, the expectations, and feelings we want our image to represent. And once we believe our image is as balanced and resolved as can be, we temporarily add RGB curves and color balance adjustment layers, where, for example, an RGB auto contrast adjustment with zero clipping ensures the image's dynamic range equals that of the screen and thereby further confirms or contradicts our tonal composition. A color balance adjustment layer provides another fast and convenient way of manipulating our red, green and blue curves, where each channel can be tabbed between and its hue and saturation balance changed with the keyboard's arrow keys, without ever having to take our eyes off the image. In fact, the color balance dialog doesn't even need to be visible, thereby ensuring we are even less distracted while observing the effect on our image. And if our color balance adjustments end up close to zero in each channel, we can be confident the color composition is then well considered and aligned with our aesthetic intentions. On the other hand, a color balance quite different to what we thought was already perfectly resolved is another important discovery to help us further refine our image's appearance. And when preserve luminosity is selected, the image's tonal composition represents 30% of the red channel plus 59% of the green channel, with the remaining 11% from the blue channel. Turning preserve luminosity off will then show the absolute change in image brightness as RGB light is added or subtracted, providing additional confirmation of our image's screen appearance and whether it can be further improved. These evaluations also need to be made without hesitation, because staring at the screen's appearance for too long will lead to habituation where differences appear less so. Quick before and after comparisons therefore help preserve our subjective vigilance by reducing the likelihood we've adapted to an overall appearance that is in fact not quite right, and our image therefore ends up less well considered and pictorially resolved, at least compared to what it could have been. We hope this has been both informative and helpful, and we wish you all the best with your adventures in digital imaging.